Peace and blessings, everyone. Mr. Westbrook's class is now in session. And today's class is an introduction to supreme numerics, my origin story, and the meaning of supreme numerics. Today is Monday, September 9th. See, we got some double nine energy between the ninth month and the ninth calendar day. So we're under the influence of the number nine as well as the number eight, since it is an eight universal day. And we got the eight universal day by adding up the current month, the current day, and the current year, 2024. When I add that vertically, that all adds up to 2042. 2 plus 0 plus 4 plus 2 equals 8. So we have the 8 universal day. Shout out to Shim's Universe on YouTube. He would call the universal day the life path of the day. Myself, I'll just refer to it or make the distinction between the calendar day and the universal day. So we are feeling the influence of both the calendar day and the universal day. The influence of the number nine is all about completion, endings, dreams fulfilled, manifestations. Like I said in my first video that I posted last week, the number eight is a money number and it's a power cycle. And quite interestingly, is that when I got home from work today, I felt the energy or operated under the energy of both the nine and the eight. I opened up a new money market account maybe back in July because my existing or my old money market account, I opened it up because I didn't have a lot of startup funds to begin with. So I needed something with a very low minimal deposit. And of course, when you have a low minimal deposit, oftentimes you will have a low yield, you know. But after a few years of building that up, I finally got to the point where I could roll that account over into another account with a higher yield and also a debit card. I didn't have a debit card on my old money market account either. Under this new account, I was able to get a debit card and get a higher yield. And even though I opened up that account back in July, I didn't remember to close the old account until today, which happens to be September 9th on the 8th Universal Day. So I don't know what else says correspondence between 9 and 8, endings and conclusions, and money day than today. Very interesting how I remember that. But anyway, this video isn't a financial video. If you want to hear more about money and finances, you can catch me on Family Finance Fridays on the DJ The Money Coach YouTube channel. Anyway, the title or the topic, like I said just a moment ago, is my origin story. How I got started with numerology, how I came about calling my offerings of numerology supreme numerics. That's what I'm going to be talking about today. And then, so this will be a combination of telling my origin story, but also a little bit of teaching, aside from, what I just showed you about the universal day and, the meanings of today. I'm going to do some teaching on the meaning of supreme numerics from both a denotative perspective and also a supreme numerics perspective, as you can see here. But we'll get to this later. I'll tell the origin story first. And I'll preface my origin story by giving, a brief overview of numerology by definition and some other, important information that you'll need, important context surrounding my origin story. So numerology is the occult, hidden, or symbolic meaning of numbers and how those meanings affect us as humans, in this realm, in this physical realm, and how they affect us on both a physical, mental, spiritual, and intuitive plane. Okay. So that's what numerology is. Now, there are several systems of numerology, and numerology exists all over the world, not just here in America. So you have Chinese numerology, you have Japanese, you have Indian, you have Hebrew. In the West, we practice, and what you'll hear most of the time on this channel would be Chaldean, Pythagorean numerology. Chaldean being the oldest system, Pythagorean also being called modern, the more newer system. Both very good systems, very accurate, but Chaldean is the oldest and more mystical and the more accurate of the two systems. Also here in the West, the first numerology system I was introduced to was the supreme mathematics of the nation of the gods and earths. Chaldean and Pythagorean came later on. So I'll start my story, my journey, by discussing the first system of numerology I was exposed to, the supreme mathematics of the nation of gods and earths, also known as the five percenters. So I was introduced to this system of numerology back in around 2011 to 2012. I've known about the nation of gods and earths and the five percenters prior to that. I grew up in New Jersey, so being on the East Coast, listening to New York hip hop. I'm a lover of New York hip hop, and so I was definitely influenced by the nation of the gods and earths. A lot of my classmates, their fathers, uncles, were members of the nation of the gods and earths. So I was surrounded by it, but I didn't have a very thorough understanding of their history and what they teach. I had a very skewed outlook of them, coming from a Christian perspective. And I had a very skewed outlook of them until I did my own study of the nation of gods and earths. And that was around 2011, 2012, where I started reading the books and, learning the history and the lessons. And the nation of gods and earths, they have several lessons. They have, of course, the supreme mathematics, they have the supreme alphabets, they have the lost and found lessons. So they have a lot of different information that they teach and live by. But the one piece of information that stuck to me was the supreme mathematics. I don't know why that is what particularly stuck with me, but that's what it was. So I learned the supreme mathematics early on back during that time. And, I'm still able to build with the supreme mathematics, run it down for you. One is knowledge, two is wisdom, three is understanding, four is cultural freedom, five is power refinement, six equality, seven God, eight build a destroy, nine born, zero cipher add on. Today's mathematics will be born, since today is the ninth, and born means to bring into existence physically as well as mentally. And if I put it all together with the system of numerology that I primarily highlight on this channel, I'm bringing forth this lesson. I'm making born this lesson. And since it's an 8 universal day, and you look at eight in the supreme mathematics, that's build or destroy. Build means to add on something that's positive. Destroy means to take away anything or all that's negative. So I'm building on my origin story and the meaning of supreme numerics. And I'm bringing that lesson forth. I brought it forth mentally when I came up with the idea and thought about what I was going to talk about and cover. And then I made it born physically by verbalizing it and recording it and posting it to the social media channels. But I am not a member of the nation of gods and earths. You can kind of compare my interactions and experiences with the nation of gods and earths to someone who went to college, they took some courses towards a degree, but they never finished the degree. That's the best way that I can make that comparison. I've received all the lessons, saw all the lessons, but I didn't take the steps towards committing it to memory and going through the enrollment and coming up with my attribute. But I am quite familiar with the lessons and the teachings of the nations of the gods and earths. So that was the first system of numerology that I was introduced to. The second system of numerology came about around, I would say, 2013. In 2013, I was a senior at Howard University in Washington, D.C., and my major was journalism with a concentration in broadcast journalism. That's why, doing these podcasts and YouTube, things like that comes quite naturally because that was my original career path. And it connects to the number four. Number four is connected to the communications industry, but I decided to go in a different direction after being unfulfilled, after getting the hands-on experience in the broadcast news industry. And I'm glad I didn't go into that career because I don't even watch the news anymore. It's so much negativity and low vibrational information that they're programming us with. But that's another conversation. But anyway, my major was journalism, but my minor was Africana Studies or African American Studies. And a couple of the classes that I took in my minor included two introductory courses to Egyptian hieroglyphs. I learned the basics of the language. I learned how to transliterate and translate the metaneture. That's the Egyptian or Kemetic term for the hieroglyphics. I believe the hieroglyphs would be the Greek word for it. So I learned the basics of the language, of the grammar, but I had a classmate who was an ambassador for the elder master teacher, Anthony Browder, who also happens to be a Howard alum, but he was at Howard many, many, many years and moons before I was. But Anthony Browder, he offers this cultural field trip called Egypt on the Potomac. And after my classmate invited us to purchase tickets and to attend and participate in that cultural field trip, in which they take you around Washington, D.C., and show you the influence of ancient Egypt on the formation of Washington, D.C., and the founding fathers being Freemasons, the influence of ancient Egypt on Freemasonry. That's like an overview of what that cultural field trip covered. But one of the things that I learned and was exposed to on that cultural field trip was Egyptian numerology. So the Egyptians had their own system of numerology. I believe it was a 1 to 9 system. I can't tell you what any of the numbers mean because I haven't looked at those notes since 2013. I still have them somewhere. I had tons of notebooks around here in bins. I have to sit down one day and go through each of those notebooks until I find that list of Egyptian numerology, so I can refresh my memory. But I think there's some books on it out as well. I added one to my Goodreads list. But Egyptian numerology was the second system of numerology I was introduced to. Now, the next system of numerology, or the final system of numerology, well, I won't say final. I would say because the next couple of systems of numerology all kind of happen simultaneously. But the But I would say in that timeline, this came first: the Chaldean and the Pythagorean systems of numerology. Now, I got exposed to numerology as we know it in the West by attending a King Simon event back in, let me see, I think it was 2014. Yeah, it had to be 2014 because it was the same time that I was doing my education fellowship. So, yeah, it had to be 2014. And I got wind of this event when I attended the ASCAT conference, which is the Association for the Study of Classical African Civilizations. I feel like I totally butchered that, but all of those words are in the acronym. They just might be out of order there. And that year of 2014, it was the winter of 2014, probably January or February. That particular year, the conference was being held in Newark, New Jersey, where I relocated to after college. I graduated from Howard in 2013 and then relocated to Newark, New Jersey to go into the education field, working at a charter school in downtown Newark and completing my teacher education classes and classes towards my master's degree since I did not major in education in undergrad. And I decided to attend the ASCAT conference because my African American Studies professors, Dr. Greg Carr and Dr. Mario Beatty, shout out to those brothers, both of them were e-board members of ASCAT. And also they brought a couple of the students to come and do presentations on the Meta Nature. So I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna go out and see my professors and see my old classmates over at Essex County College. And as I was the first day when I entered into Essex County College, they had all the vending tables out. All the different vendors were out there selling their products or promoting their events. I walked past King Simon. I didn't know who King Simon was at the time. And he did. I don't even think he spoke to me because I think he was having a conversation with another brother. He just handed me a couple of handbills and I kept it moving. But I held on to the handbills. I looked at them. One of them was for the Million Youth Rally in Harlem, and the other was for an event at Nicholas Brooklyn Bookstore. And I don't remember the name of that event at Nicholas Brooklyn. Wait, no, I messed up now. I messed up. The other handbill couldn't have been the Million Youth Rally because I had already attended that in the fall prior. I think it was in September or something. I know it was still, kind of warm out, but it was the Million Youth Rally that persuaded me or got me to go to this event in Nicholas, Brooklyn. And the reason that is because when I went to the Million Youth Rally, I saw this rapper named Nairobi Selah perform. And man, that sister was bad on the mic. Like she went in. She performed this joint called Hookless Part 2. And I was like, wow. So when I saw that she was on the bill for this event at Nicholas Brooklyn, hosted by King Simon, I'm like, yeah, I need to go there and check her out. And the Million Youth Rally was also my introduction to a lot of brothers and teachers in the conscious community. That was my first time, seeing Brother Polite, Cyrus Sutanseti. So after hearing them speak and being blown away by them, I started my YouTube journey or rabbit hole into the conscious community and listening to all the debates and the lectures by them. I also remember Umar Johnson being out there as well, Melly Mel performing. But anyway, I wanted to go to this event to hear whatever Nairobi Selah had to say, whatever was going to be a topic of her talk or if she was performing. I don't know what she was going to be doing there, but I knew I wanted to go. So I went to the event, and this is the very ironic and funny thing about it. Nairobi couldn't make it. I think King Simon said she was moving from Brooklyn to Harlem or Harlem to Brooklyn. one of those, so she wasn't able to make the event. But I came all the way out to Brooklyn from Jersey, from Newark, New Jersey. So I'm like, all right, I'll just wait it out. I'll probably still get some good value out of attending this event and hearing the other presenters. King Simon was one of the presenters. He did a lecture or presentation on disaster preparedness, and he connected it to numerology. So that is when I got exposed to this system of numerology. And prior to that, any metaphysical science, especially astrology, I never really paid attention to. I remember being in high school and my 10th grade biology teacher telling us in class one day that astrology was pseudoscience and not to believe in it, and that they just come up with arbitrary and broad descriptions of the zodiac signs to make it sound like it applies to everyone. So I'm like, yeah, you're right. Forget astrology. I'm not gonna pay any attention to that or subscribe to that. So and that had to be back in what, 2007, 2008 at least. So from about 2007, 2008, all the way up to 2014, I I didn't subscribe to astrology and never heard of numerology. This was my first time hearing about numerology at this uh, event in Nicholas, Brooklyn during this King Simon presentation. Now, what clicked with me and opened my mind back up to these metaphysical sciences was when King Simon explained that the elites use these sciences. These billionaires, these CEOs, they use astrology and numerology to map out their plans, and they make decisions based on the time of the year, the date, and things of that nature. He dropped names such as Walt Disney and other names such as J.P. Morgan. When I'm paraphrasing the quote, the J.P. Morgan quote, when he said, millionaires don't use astrology, billionaires do. And then later on, I would learn that President Ronald Reagan had an astrologer. So that made me say, maybe there might be some validity to this if all of these powerful people are using astrology and numerology. And that was also the time that I learned that there was something significant about being a master number 22, with me being born on the 22nd of the month. I think during the intermission between speakers, King Simon, he was going around talking to all the people. He's like, when your birthday? I'm like, December 22nd. He's like, man, you a master number 22. Man, you need to stop playing. In my King Simon voice. So I actually got exposed to or introduced to King Simon first before I got introduced to his teacher, Lloyd Strayhorn. And I have to mention that both of these brothers are my teachers. And if you're familiar with King Simon or Lloyd Strayhorn, you will see the influence in my teaching style and my breakdowns in the way that they break down the numbers as well. So, like Jay-Z said, I'm not a biter, I'm a writer for myself and others. When I say a big verse, I'm only bigging up my brother. When I'm breaking down the universal day, year, month, I'm only bigging up Lloyd Strayhorn. I'm not stealing his style or biting off of him. I'm bigging him up because I'm always going to shout him out. And I learned that from King Simon. King Simon is never, never ashamed or never too proud to shout out his teachers or to shout out the authors of the books that he learned from. So I'm taking that with me as well. Or when you see me breaking down the meaning from a numerical perspective of words, I learned that from King Simon. I also learned that from Lloyd Strayhorn. But as far as coming on video and teaching it to his audience, and doing the perspective on it and the meaning and the definition along with the numerical perspective. I learned that from King Simon. So that's a big up to King Simon as well. But continuing on, also during that event, I got introduced to Joshua Sarah. He did an amazing lecture, presentation. I can't remember if he called it Supreme Mathematics or Sacred Geometry, but it was one of the two. He didn't go into numerology, but he went into the geometrical aspects of nature, showing the patterns in nature, how water reacts to sound vibrations, the patterns of flowers and tree rings, and all of that cool stuff. So I'm happy I went to that event, even though the reason why I was going to that event, that person wasn't there, but that started my journey that started my numerology journey, Western numerology journey, in addition to studying the supreme mathematics and building with the supreme mathematics of the nation of the gods and earths. So from there, I started going on YouTube and I found a video with King Simon and Lloyd Strayhorn together in the video. And I think that was on Black Magic 363, if I remember correctly. So shout out to Brother Rich for that video. They were out at some event. I'm going to see if I can find that video, if it's still in my history, or if I can go back and find it. I didn't purchase any numerology books until the end of 2016, going into 2017. So at the end of 2016, I got Lloyd's primary book, his comprehensive Numbers in You. Matter of fact, I need to go grab that. I forgot to grab my other props. And I also got King Simon's Numbers Are Simple, People Are Complicated books. Let me go grab those real quick. Lloyd Strayhorn, Numbers in You. And I didn't realize that this was the original cover design from 1987, I believe. I will find this out later on when I brought this book to Lloyd to get it signed the first time I met him in person. Your copyright 1980, 1987. And yes, I did meet Lloyd Strayhorn in person as well. I only met King Simon that one time, but I ran into Lloyd Strayhorn maybe at least 3 or 4 times, all in Newark. I think twice, but no, it was 3 times. Once at the Source of Knowledge bookstore, shout out to them in Newark, Black-owned bookstore, and twice at the Refile headquarters. I think that was in South Newark. But when I brought this to Lloyd at the Source of Knowledge, this was May 13th, 2019, number 4 day. So that's the light. Yeah, we could see it. Lloyd signed it and he said, "This is a collector's item." So once he told me that this is a collector's item, I said, I need to stop using this copy so I don't mess it up. I already had to tape the front cover because it was starting to fall apart. So I gotta. Well, this is actually my third Numbers in You book because I use this book so much. This is like the numerology Bible. It's so comprehensive. It's probably the most comprehensive numerology book you'll find. Now, does it have every single numerology concept in it? No, but like I said, it's probably the most comprehensive, thickest book. It gets really intricate. I'm jumping around a little bit. Let me get back to the timeline story. All right, so let's fast forward to, so I mentioned the end of 2016 going into 2017. So the end of 2016 going into 2017, that's when I got the books. I got Numbers in You, Lloyd's book, since I learned that Lloyd was King Simon's teacher. And of course, I got King Simon's book. Numbers are simple, people are complicated. I went through both of these books, got myself a notebook, went through every single concept for myself. Originally, the idea was to use numerology as a tool for my own self awareness, my own self knowledge, and guiding myself using numbers through this realm. And I decided to give myself as a birthday gift a consultation. I won't call it a reading. King Simon doesn't do readings, he does consultations. So I got myself a consultation with King Simon, and I think I chose King Simon instead of Lloyd. I don't remember why. I think it was because I think Lloyd was very busy, and King Simon had more availability as far as time slots. I wanted to get it done around my birthday, but I didn't book my session with King Simon until I went through both his and Lloyd's books. I did a 1 hour session with King Simon over the phone. It was recorded. I still had the recording. I listened to the recording every couple of years.
Hey, brother Nicholas, how you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm good. Sorry about that. You tried it again and it came through this time, right?
The third time. Yeah, third time it went through. Yeah.
Okay, that's good. You ever had a numerology reading before?
No, I haven't. This is my first time.
Okay, I didn't. Like I tell people, I'm not psychic. I'm just here to use the negative and the positive number to help guide you where you want to go. Depending on where you want to go with the questions we are dealing with. Whole hour. I will also touch on your health. We'll touch on what to look out for as you're getting older, and also the good months, challenge months, days, numbers, and all that. Anything in particular you wanted to go down the road?
King Simon was spot on. I'm like, you know what? I went through the books. I resonate with reading myself in the books. I resonate with the consultation, the numerovation that King Simon gave me. He wasn't calling it numerovation at the time. I don't think so. But that's what he definitely numerovated me. He definitely numerovated and used the numbers to guide me. So from there, I was so excited about what I learned about myself and the science. I started sharing it with my friends, my friends that I knew would be open-minded towards this information. So I started sharing it with them. I started bringing the books with me when I met up with my friends. Like, look at this. When my friends' birthdays came around, a part of my birthday wish, I would break down the numbers, the birth number, or later on, I started doing their yearly cycles. But I was really excited about this numerology thing, and eventually, people started asking me questions about it. And I might be getting ahead of myself a little bit, but this is where the timeline gets a little fuzzy between people reaching out to me for questions and me starting to take courses on numerology. But people would ask me questions. I would volunteer to do readings or reports. I was writing up reports too. That was the other thing. I was writing up by hand or typing up reports for people, breaking down their name and their birthday, their life path. So that's when I started to think like, maybe I can make this a regular thing of doing numerology breakdowns, consultations, readings, et cetera, for people. But between the years of 2017, the end of 2016, going into 2017, when I got my first session and when I got the books, I was practicing, but I wasn't practicing on a consistent basis. Life was getting real. I was getting busy with work and personal things, distractions. So I wasn't as consistent in my study of numerology between the years of 2017 and 2020. 2020 came around. Of course, we remember what happened in 2020, although we wish we could forget what happened in 2020. But the pandemic started March 13th. Yeah, I think it was March 13th, 2020. That's when the United States officially closed down everything and told everybody to go inside and quarantine. And around this time, 2020, I think was when Lloyd introduced his Udemy courses. Was first his first or second Udemy course. Learn from Lloyd, the basics of numerology, the next steps, and then eventually the do's and don'ts. So I went through the first two courses, the basics of numerology, the do's and don'ts. I was doing all the homework assignments. I joined Lloyd's Facebook community. He was also posting lessons on Facebook. As a result, like I said, I was doing the assignments, laying out the names, doing the key numbers, doing the motivation, the personality numbers, pretty much the same thing that I did in the Numbers in You book. But I was practicing again, getting back on my square, pretty much. Getting back on my square on studying numerology on a consistent basis. So I'll say I've been consistent since 2020 to now. I've been studying numerology and practicing since, we'll just call it 2017, since I got the books in at the end of 2016. We'll call it 2017. I've been studying numerology since 2017. It's 2024 now. So that's 7 years. But consistently, 2020 to 2024, I've been studying and practicing consistently on a consistent basis. So I took the Udemy courses, all three of Lloyd's courses. King Simon came out with his book, Numerovation for Mental Stability, which is right here. Got this book, and in my opinion, this book completely outdid this book. He got really deep into the meanings in this book. Even though his main focus was mental health, I really appreciated that he went more deeply into the meanings of the numbers, incorporating all the different numerology systems, the Chaldean, Pythagorean, the tarot, the compound, bringing all of those together. And kind of jump. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention I got the rest of Lloyd's books too. I should have grabbed those while I was over at the bookshelf too. Let me grab those just to show you these receipts. So I have three copies of Numbers in You because I've been using them so much. It's about time for me to get a fourth copy. My third copy, the pages are already falling out. I already showed you two of King Simon's book. Now the rest of Lloyd's books, I have all of Lloyd's books. Numerology for the 21st century, the workbook, the relationship book. I was devouring all of their material. I was consuming all of it. Since they were my introduction to this science of numerology, I said, man, I want to be all in, get everything that they're putting out. Now, I have to admit, I don't have all of King Simon's books, but I do have his numerology book specifically. But now that I'm starting this business, I need to go ahead and stop playing and get that promotion book. And I don't have the children's book, the first children's book about children's health, because that one is a numerology book, but I don't think I got that one since I don't have any children for myself. But hey, since I'm going to be doing guidance and consultations and advisement for people, and my clients will have children, maybe I should get that children's book too, so I can use that and have that in my toolkit as well. So I'll be getting the rest of King Simon's books. But anyway, going back to the courses, I was taking the courses, went through all the Lloyd's courses, and then after King Simon dropped the Numerovation book, he also came out with the course, Numerovation course, the 2-hour Udemy course. Now, upon completing the 2-hour Udemy course, he said, I got this 8-hour raw and uncut course. And I'm like, oh yeah, I gotta get that too. Gotta get that too. And this style is coming from. It's coming from King Simon. He bring out the old school with the new school teacher styles with the PowerPoint slides, but he also brings out the old school chalkboard, and he's actually writing on the chalkboard. See, I don't have a chalkboard. I'm using this chart paper, this giant poster chart paper, but actually coming on camera and writing everything out and putting it up on the wall. I got that from King Simon. So once again, shout out to him. And where do we go from there? I continue to do reports and readings and consultations for people for free, of course. But around this point between the time of 2020 and 2024, I can't remember when it actually clicked. And I told myself I could do this as a career. It was sometime within the last couple of years it clicked with me that I could start actually charging people fees for doing this rather than doing it for free. But the one thing that I wanted to make sure I did was I did not want to self appoint myself as a professional numerologist, astronumerologist. Before I came out as a professional and offer services to people, I wanted to get the blessings of an elder master teacher. Whether that was Lloyd, whether that was King Simon, someone that's been doing it for a long time and has been the master teacher of it. Lloyd Strayhorn's been doing this for, if not 50, nearly 50 years. King Simon's been doing this he's probably been doing this for a couple decades too. A few decades too. I'm not sure when he got his start, but he's been doing it for a long time as well. So I wanted the blessings from an elder master teacher before I called it upon myself to become a professional numerologist. We know in this social media age, there's people out there. Of course, that's not something I did or would do, but there's people out there, they watch one YouTube video or they read the summary of one book and then they come on, Instagram and Facebook like, yeah, I'm an astrologer, I'm a numerologist, I'm an Ifa priest. And it's like, really? What rites of passage did you go through? Did you put any skin in the game before you appointed yourself a teacher or a professional? So I wanted to show everybody that I went through the proper rites of passage and got the blessings from an elder before I came out and started charging people fees for these services. And I called up Lloyd Strayhorn about it one day, and he said, "Yeah, I'll do I'll do some one-on-one teaching with you, for a very reasonable investment." I'm like, "Great, great." And he said, and this was shortly after the second time. Yeah, I believe it was the second time that I met him in person at the Refoul headquarters, and I think this was back in 2021. I think this was the beginning of 2021 or the beginning of 2022. Listen, the last 4 years has been a blur. it was one or the other. But anyway, I called up Lloyd not too long after I met him and had my brief 5-minute in-person reading with him. I had that recording also. So I had my hour-long King Simon recording and also had my 5-minute Lloyd Strayhorn recording.
Alrighty, today is Saturday. It is the 8th of January. It is my son's birthday, by the way. He's a Capricorn 8. I'm reading another Capricorn, Brother Nick, who was born on December the 22nd of 1990.
Yes.
Damn, you got a good handwriting, Nick. I can tell you the last of that they taught penmanship to.
Right,
You could tell, okay? What happens is, when I did your year, there is, what happens is, it's look like this. 12, 22, and and it's interesting because the year ends off in 22, right?
Right.
So I do that. That's 6. That's 5. That's 0. That's 2. That adds to 13, 4. So in other words, you are in a 4 personal year, and it matches your master number, which is a 22, 4. So anytime the personal year is matching the person's birth number, that's a very good sign. 4, I always call it the box. That the person, there's 2 ways of how they look at it. Either they feel boxed in physically, mentally, emotionally, financially, or it's a box that allows them to lay the cornerstone, the foundation to some things important.
And he said, we can do that, but let's wait. It was the beginning of Mercury retrograde, and Lloyd doesn't do anything major or anything new during Mercury retrograde. Of course, some things are unavoidable during Mercury retrograde. You have to do. You just need to exercise extra caution and take your time. But Lloyd said, let's wait until after Mercury retrograde before we do these one-on-one lessons. So Mercury retrograde came and went, but once again, I got busy with life and work and all of that, and I didn't reach back out to Lloyd. I was looking for the opportunity again to reach out to Lloyd for these one-on-one lessons, and before you know it, a year, 2 years, 3 years done passed, and it's 2024, and Lloyd presents this opportunity publicly on his platform, on his show, to learn how to practice numerology as a career. And I'm like, this is what I've been waiting for. Let me jump on this. I made the financial circulation investment. I went through the program, and it only reaffirmed and confirmed that I was ready to do this professionally. So here I am. That's my origin story. And I haven't even gotten to the breakdown of Supreme Numerics. But hopefully that won't take too much time. So now that I got the professional development from Lloyd, so aside from him going through the teachings again of how to lay out a name and break down a name numerically, the meanings of the numbers, the life path number, the cycles, the birth number. He also gave us some professional development on starting your business as a astronumerologist. And one of the things that you do when you start a business is you have to come up with a name. And the name that I came up with for my numerology business, or the leg of that business, was Supreme Numerics. And I learned from Jackie Levine from reading her books. I had to do a separate video on all the numerology books that I had, that it's most beneficial when your business name is in correspondence with either your birth number or your key numbers. My birth number is a 22-4, master number 22, reduced down to a 4. My key numbers are the 4, 1, and 8. Hence why I'm recording and posting this video today, because it's an 8 universal day, and it was just bubbling inside of me. I'm like, I can't wait to do this video. But anyway, I wanted the name to encompass everything that I was doing aside from just the numerology. My unread book reviews with Nick and Rue, that content, that was on my YouTube channel. I was also posting clips from what I do with DJ the Money Coach. So I wanted to put it all under the umbrella of Mr. Westbrook's class and kind of run with that, education teacher themed idea, since my primary day job, career is a high school English teacher. I wanted to just kind of run with that whole education theme. I was already running with the Mr. Westbrook's moniker on my social media. I got people calling me that without me coming out and saying to call me that. People start, like my friends started calling me Mr. Westbrook. So it wasn't just at work, at the school. It was, you know, with my friends, they started calling me Mr. Westbrook. So I wanted to run with that whole teacher theme outside of being a regular classroom teacher. So I tried Mr. Westbrook's. I tried Mr. Westbrook's class. I tried Professor Westbrook's. I tried taking all of those options and manipulating the spelling of it to try to make it add up to a 4, 1, or an 8, or 22, and it just wasn't happening. So I said, okay, let me try doing something with numbers, with the word numbers or some variation of the word numbers. And going back full circle, my first introduction to numerology was the supreme mathematics of the nation of gods and earths. So my mind went back there first, since I still build with the supreme mathematics, and I've been so heavily influenced by the nation of gods and earths. And supreme mathematics is such a, man, that's such a fire, powerful name right there. But I couldn't hijack that, because the nation of gods and earths has supreme mathematics. I can't take that. So let me think of some type of variation that expresses the same meaning and energy and vibration of supreme mathematics. So I came up with supreme numerics. Kept the word supreme, but I just came up with another word for mathematics. And it just rolled off the tongue. Numerics just rolled off the tongue great, because you could have supreme numbers. Nah. Supreme numericals. That's a little awkward. Too many syllables in numericals. Supreme numerics. Now, I know you might be thinking, especially those that are adept in the English language, such as myself as an English teacher, numerics with an S isn't an actual word. The word is numeric, not numerics. But when you're creating a business name and you're adding your little style and swag to it, you can break the rules a little bit. You can even invent your own words. King Simon invented the word numerovation, so why not? I'll go with numerics. I tried that, added it all up, and this is where we get into this lesson here, this supreme numerical lesson. This is my first lesson on laying out a word and analyzing and breaking down the meaning of the word from a numerical perspective. But going back to King Simon, he teaches us to break things down from a holistic perspective. So he's going to give you the numerical breakdown, but he's also going to go into the definition and give you the definition of it. So actually, let me start with that. So we're going to go into the definitions of supreme and the definition of numeric, and we'll put it all together. The definition of supreme, it's an adjective. It's also used as a noun. But we're looking at the adjective form of it. An adjective is a descriptive word, words that describe nouns. The first definition says, in parentheses, of authority or an office or someone holding it, superior to all others. So you got superior to all others. You also have strongest, most important, or most powerful, very great or intense, and extreme, of a penalty or sacrifice involving death, used to indicate that someone or something is very good or well known for a specified activity. Those are all of the meanings from the adjective as an adjective. Those are all the meanings. The meaning that most closely relates to the way that I'm using it would be strongest, most important, or most powerful. Okay, strongest, most important, or most powerful, and a little bit of very great or intense. Now, When we look at the word numeric simply means relating to or expressed as a number or numbers. If we want to be technical about numerology, very technical, I first was exposed to learn numerology through math, through counting my numbers from 1 to 10 as a little baby, or learning addition, subtraction, multiplication. The highest I went to math in my formal education was calculus. I did well up until probably algebra 2, but after algebra 2, that's when I started struggling. I was good with algebra 1, geometry. I was decent at algebra 2, but when we got to that pre-calc and that calculus, I'm like, man, I'm done with this. Don't give me any more math. So those are very advanced forms of mathematics, but when we're talking about, going back to the definition, when we're talking about supreme mathematics, superior mathematics, most important or most powerful mathematics, very great or intense mathematics, we're talking about these systems of numerology. We're talking about the supreme mathematics of the nation of gods and earths. We're talking about Chaldean, Pythagorean numerology. That's what we're talking about. And the reason why this is the simplest form of math, because all you need to do is be able to, like Laurie Strayhorn would say, count with your fingers or do simple addition. So although it's the simplest form of mathematics, it is the most supreme or the highest form of mathematics. Not necessarily the most complex or advanced, but the highest form, because it gets into those four areas that I mentioned early on: the physical, the mental, the intuitive, and the spiritual. So when we're dealing with numbers on those levels, that's why it's the highest form. And these are the numbers that influence our character traits, influence our, I guess you could say, luck, for the lack of a better word. Why we have better outcomes on certain days compared to other days. So that was the denotative dictionary slash connotative meaning of supreme numerics. Now let's go into the numerical, the supreme numerical meaning of supreme numerics. I mentioned the two systems of numerology primarily practiced in the West: the Chaldean and the Pythagorean. So I have all of that represented here. The Chaldean is in the blue. I put that on top since that's the older system, and I put the Pythagorean in red on the bottom since that's the newer system. King Simon would flip it. He would say that since the Pythagorean is the newer system and is standing on the shoulders of the Chaldean, he put that one, he would flip it and put the Pythagorean on top so it's standing on the shoulders of the Chaldean. But the other reason why I did it like this was to put it in alphabetical order. C comes before P. That's another reason I did that, and I did it in the two different colors so you could see the distinction. And the whole idea of letters and numbers is that in each of these systems, each letter of the alphabet is assigned a number. In the Chaldean system, it goes from 1 to 8. No letter is assigned to the number 9, since the Chaldeans considered the number 9 a very sacred number, although you still use the number 9 if a name or a word adds up to a number 9. You would still use the 9 then, but they didn't assign the number 9 to a letter. So it goes from 1 to 8. The Pythagorean system goes from 1 to 9. So when I laid out all of the letters in supreme numerics, starting with supreme, in the Chaldean system, supreme adds up to a 33-6. In the Pythagorean system, it adds up to a 34-7. Okay. And if I had more time, I mean, I do have more time, but I don't want to make this too long. This video is already too long as is. we over an hour, but so I won't get too deep into it. But if I wanted to make this much longer, or if I want to go into or make a separate video going into this name even deeper, I would discuss the master numbers. This adding up to a master number 33, and then with numerics, that adds up to a 29. In the Chaldean system, it adds up to a 29, reduced down to a master number 11, reduced down to a 2. And in the Pythagorean system, it adds up to a 39, reduced to a 12, reduced to a 3. I'm using reduced, but if we're speaking in the supreme mathematics, we'll say all being born to. We'll say, it's 29, or wisdom born, all being born down to knowledge, all being born down to 2. But we'll say reduced. As I said in my first video, in numerology, the phatic symbol, I said symbol. I said that in the first video too. I don't know why I keep saying phatic symbol instead of phatic system. In the phatic system, you keep on adding until you get to a single digit. But when we're doing Chaldean numerology, we also look at the compound or double digit before we reduce it down, because that holds the hidden meaning of the number, while the single digit number is the outward meaning, the double digit is the hidden meaning. And as an aside, we break down the double digit meanings from the perspective of the tarot, and also the perspective of the compound meaning of how the two numbers in that number work together individually, or correspond or connect individually to bring us to that single digit number. But anyway, that's another video. And also, if I wanted to go very deeply, I can go into how you got a master number before we even add it all up. The C and the S in numerics forms a 33. I could also break it down from that perspective too. But we're going to keep it moving and give you the sum of these numbers. So I gave you the sum of each word individually. Supreme being the 6 in Chaldean, supreme being the 7 in Pythagorean, numerics being the 2 in the Chaldean, and numerics being the number 3 in the Pythagorean. So I added it all up at the bottom, but I kept it in the compound numbers, though. I didn't reduce them down. But either way that you add them up, you're going to get the same result. If my goal is to get the sum of a single digit sum, the result is going to be the same whether I add up 6 plus 2, or 7 plus 3, or if I keep it as a compound and do 33 plus 29 or 34 plus 39, you're going to get the same result, because at the end of the day, you have to reduce it down to a single digit. In the Chaldean system, supreme numerics, both words together adds up to a 62-8. And in the Pythagorean, 34 plus 39 adds up to a 73, reduced down to a 10, reduced down to the single digit of 1. So the reason why I went with this number, if you were paying attention earlier, or even paying attention to the first video, we all have key numbers, or sometimes you could call them lucky numbers, or King Simon calls them power numbers. Lloyd Strayhorn calls them key numbers. These are your best numbers. These are the numbers on the calendar that you should look forward to, that you should, carry out your important plans or big plans. The reason why even though today's the 9th, I still decided to carry out this video because it's an 8 universal day. And 8 is one of my key numbers. And the reason why 8 is one of my key numbers is because I'm a Capricorn, and Capricorn is ruled by the number 8. My other key numbers are the 4 and the 1. 4 because 22, I'm born on the 22nd of the month. 2 plus 2 equals 4. The number 1 because 4 and the 1 are the sun numbers, so they're a pair. They go together. And as we can see in both systems, I have key numbers in both systems. In the Chaldean system, I have the number 8. And in the Pythagorean system, I have the number 1. So since I have 2 of my key numbers, although I don't have my first key number, which is a 4, this is a second best option to have, the 1 and the 8 for my key numbers in both systems. Now, listen, I manipulated so many different spellings and name combinations. I can't remember which was which, but I did have some that added up into an 8 in one system, but it didn't add up to one of my key numbers in another system. Now, although I'll probably be okay if a key number was in one of the systems. I wanted to be extra safe by picking a name that has my key numbers in both systems. A lot of times I was coming up with the number 6, and the number 6 is in opposition to the number 4. So I'm like, I don't want to use that. But I like the way Supreme Numerics sounds, the way it rolls off the tongue, the meaning of it from dictionary definition, and also from a connotative perspective, and also the fact that numerically it adds up to 2 of my key numbers. I'm like, yeah, this is it. So this is why my numerology offerings are called Supreme Numerics. This is how I got here to introduce Supreme Numerics to the world. This is my story. This is my journey. My journey is only getting started. 7 years in, that's nothing. I plan on doing this for decades. As long as I'm still breathing, I will bring the Supreme Numerics to you all. All right, now that I added up Supreme Numerics in both systems, both halves of this name in both systems, and collectively all together in both systems, I can break down what all these numbers mean and what energies they carry. Starting with Supreme in the Chaldean system, it adds up to a 6, which points to education, guidance, balance. Numerics adds up to a 2, which points to balance again, teamwork, unity, intuition. And then it adds up to an 8. So let's put it all together. Supreme Numerics is here to help educate and guide you from a balanced approach on the power of numerology, dealing with numbers, numerics, and to show you the duality of numbers through a teamwork approach, me helping you or you going out and seeking the books and the courses, and through this balanced educational guiding principles on the duality of numbers through teamwork, you can achieve your 8. That means you can achieve your power and you can achieve abundance in your life. Whatever abundance means to you, whether that's money, resources, time, positive relationships, you can use Supreme Numerics to help you achieve abundance. Now, from the Pythagorean perspective, In order to be supreme, and supreme adds up to a 7. So in order for 1 to be supreme, similar to proper education of the number 6, number 7 needs to be well studied, research, well read, and there's a balance there too. You can combine the study of books and research with the spiritual side of going inward into meditation, introspection, and listening to your intuition. So, in order to be supreme, whether supreme being, supreme at a certain trade or career or anything, you need to combine your knowledge, thorough knowledge, and education of that topic, along with going inward into your meditation and intuition. And in the Pythagorean for numerics, it adds up to a 3. So, numerology, as the numbers are here to guide you, they're here to lead you towards your growth, expansion, self improvement, positive thinking. Now let's bring it all together. Let's bring it all together. You can't you can't just look at the numbers alone by themselves. That's not enough. You need to regard the numbers at a supreme level. So through thorough reading, research, and analysis, combined with introspection and listening and following your intuition, you can enjoy the benefits of the growth and expansion and the self improvement of the numbers. And through this growth and expansion and self improvement, you can be number 1. Because supreme numerics and Pythagorean adds up to a number 1. You can take charge of your life and be the head of yourself, the head of your family, the head of your community. You can be that dynamic individual. You can be that force to be reckoned with. All of the attributes of the number 1. You can be dominant through supreme numerics. But of course, there's always going to say this, there's duality in everything. You must do the work, you must add on, do the positive building in order to reach the positive sides of the 1 and the 8. On the flip side, in the Chaldean, or even if we apply the supreme mathematics, build or destroy, you can cause destruction, by not being properly educated or being properly guided, and not respecting the duality of the numbers can lead to your destruction, or it can lead to misunderstanding, or it can lead to you being ostracized, being domineering, being a bully. Same thing for the number 1. By not being in balance, between your proper research, proper education, and your intuition and your spirituality, or if you're lacking in both of those things, then you can't enjoy the positivity of the number 3, the growth and the expansion. As a matter of fact, you'll be a nervous breakdown. So, to wrap this up, this is the meaning of supreme numerics. This has been my origin story. This is what I'm here to offer you. And if you want to see the supreme or experience the supreme numerics at work in your life on a more personal, basis, reach out to me. Reach out to me for a session, email me, send me a message on social media, and I'll show you how you can use the numbers in your birthday, in your name, or if you're thinking about changing your name or coming up with a business name, I can help you ensure that that name and the numbers in your birthday are in harmony. So that's all I got. I went pretty long. Most of my videos won't be this long, but there was a lot. There's a lot to my backstory and a lot to this lesson. I'll probably break this up into 2 parts. Have my origin story on one video and have the Supreme Numerics lesson in a separate video. But anyway, thank you again for watching. Be well, be blessed, and continue to strive to become the best version of yourself. Peace.